It has been more than 25 years since the death of little beauty queen JonBenét Ramsey, but the mystery still lingers. Despite numerous theories and investigations, questions about her murder remain. Where is justice for JonBenét? Let's find out in today's episode what we don't know about this case. But before we begin, we kindly ask you to support our work with a thumbs up so you can keep watching. Thank you, and let's begin. The haunting mystery of JonBenét Ramsey, what we still don't know. On December 26, 1996, Christmas was supposed to be a time of joy, family, and togetherness. But that year, the Ramsey family's holiday cheer turned into a nightmare they never could have imagined. In Boulder, Colorado, the day began like any other. John and Patsy Ramsey woke up in their luxurious home alongside their 6-year-old daughter, JonBenét. As the sun streamed through the windows, they shared breakfast and laughter, relishing the warmth of the season and the company of loved ones. Patsy's parents, George and Anne, were also present, making the most of the rare moment when their daughter and granddaughter were all under one roof. This idyllic scene would soon become a haunting memory. That morning, Patsy noticed that JonBenét's bed was empty. Thinking she had woken up early as children often do, she went downstairs and found the girl missing. At first, they assumed she was playing hide and seek until they realized she wasn't in any of the usual hiding spots. A wave of panic surged through the house as they called her name, their voices echoing with worry in the vast emptiness. When JonBenét didn't respond, Patsy started to get really worried. She knew her daughter well, and she hadn't left the house that day, so where could she be? The minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last, and they decided to call the police. Their worst fears had materialized. Their daughter was gone without a trace. As the hours passed, the initial shock gave way to mounting dread. The community rallied around the Ramseys, organizing search parties and poring over every possible lead. But JonBenét was nowhere to be found. Then came the fateful discovery in the basement of the Ramsey home. A single word scribbled on a piece of paper, ransom. It was the beginning of a terrifying chapter. The investigators were faced with a grim reality. This was no ordinary kidnapping. Their little girl was now a pawn in a dangerous game. However, after a frantic search, the authorities discovered the body of young JonBenét. Her lifeless form was found in the basement of the family's home, far from the joyful Christmas spirit just hours before. The news reverberated across the nation. A child was dead. A family's joy had turned to tragedy in an instant. The festive season became a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of parental love. The entire country mourned for the little girl who had captured everyone's hearts. Her story was one of innocence lost and a stark reminder of the darkness that could lurk even in the most seemingly idyllic communities. What we don't know about the case, despite extensive media coverage and public interest, certain aspects of JonBenét's case remain shrouded in mystery. Here are some of the unresolved questions surrounding the case. Who is responsible? The identity of the perpetrator continues to elude the authorities. While several theories and suspects have been proposed, no one has been officially linked to the crime. The lack of concrete evidence has left a void of uncertainty, giving rise to speculation and conjecture. Was it an intruder or someone close to the family? One prevalent theory suggests that the killer was an intruder who happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. However, others argue that the crime was committed by someone close to the family. This raises questions about the safety and security within the household and whether the Ramseys' trust in others might have played a role in the tragedy. What was the motive behind the crime? The motive behind the crime remains unclear. Whether it was a random act of violence, a sexual assault gone wrong, or a deliberate and sinister plot by a person close to the family. Understanding the why is crucial to apprehending the person responsible. Why was JonBenét Ramsey in the basement? The presence of JonBenét's body in the basement of the family home suggests a strong connection between the crime scene and the residence. Why was she taken there? Was it a location chosen for its seclusion, or did it hold some significance to the perpetrator? Unraveling the tragedy. Inside JonBenét Ramsey's unsolved murder case, in the affluent neighborhood of Boulder, Colorado, the Ramsey family resided in a grand home that was the epitome of middle-class American affluence. They were well-respected and seemingly unassuming citizens, making the subsequent events all the more shocking. John and Patsy, the doting parents, were known for their dedication to their daughter and their active involvement in her life. JonBenét was not only the apple of their eye, but also a child prodigy who excelled academically and was a rising star in the world of child beauty pageants. The day the unthinkable happened, the Ramseys had invited JonBenét's maternal grandparents over for Christmas. The family was enjoying their time together, cherishing the moments that made up their everyday lives. But fate had a cruel twist in store for them. On the morning of December 26, 1996, when Patsy realized that JonBenét was missing, the quiet suburban neighborhood was thrown into chaos. Search efforts were immediately initiated, but within hours it became clear that this was not a typical missing child case. The discovery of the ransom note added a layer of complexity, pointing towards a calculated crime. As the investigation deepened, the spotlight turned to the family home. It was here that the authorities found JonBenét's battered body in the basement. The medical examiner's report revealed that she had been strangled. The exact cause of death was consistent with manual strangulation, indicating that the killer used their hands to cut off her oxygen supply. This method suggested a personal connection between the killer and the victim, raising suspicions about potential motives such as a personal grudge or a desire to hurt the family. Forensic analysis of the crime scene yielded further insights, albeit inconclusive. Despite extensive scrutiny, the only physical evidence found was a single partial palm print on the floor of the basement. Unfortunately, it didn't match anyone in the National Fingerprint Database, leaving the investigators with more questions than answers. This lack of concrete forensic evidence created a significant challenge in the pursuit of justice for JonBenét. But the bizarre circumstances surrounding the case didn't end there. The autopsy report showed that the body had been in the basement for several hours before being discovered. This detail raised questions about how long JonBenét had been dead and whether there were other individuals involved in her death. The absence of surveillance footage from outside the house left a lot of unknowns, hindering the ability to reconstruct the timeline of events leading up to the murder. Adding another layer of intrigue to the case, JonBenét had suffered blunt force injuries to the head, suggesting that she had been assaulted before her death. This revelation pointed towards a violent struggle, raising questions about the extent of her suffering and the killer's intent. Additionally, the medical examiner's assessment of the head injuries indicated that they were not fatal, which raised the possibility that she might have survived for some time after the assault. This detail fueled speculation about the sequence of events and the potential for witnesses or evidence to have been overlooked. In addition to the physical evidence, the psychological aspects of the case are equally perplexing. Whoever was responsible for JonBenét's murder displayed a level of premeditation and callousness that baffled investigators. The selection of the basement as the location for her body suggested familiarity with the house, leading to speculation about whether it was an inside job or whether the killer had intimate knowledge of the Ramsey-esque residence. This aspect of the case underscores the complexity of the crime and the challenges involved in understanding the killer's mindset. Furthermore, the killer's decision to leave the body in the basement after presumably committing the murder in another part of the house raised questions about their intentions. Was it meant to be discovered, or was it a way to taunt the family? This element of theatricality added a disturbing layer to the crime scene, leaving investigators puzzled by the killer's behavior. The Ramseys were questioned extensively by the police, but they were unable to provide any insights into who might have wanted to harm their daughter. This lack of clarity led to public scrutiny and suspicion, with many questioning whether the family was being fully transparent. The intense media attention and public speculation put immense pressure on the Ramseys, who were already coping with the devastating loss of their daughter. They were caught in a web of grief, confusion, and public scrutiny, making it all the more difficult to navigate the treacherous waters of a murder investigation. Amidst the tragedy, conspiracy theories began to emerge, casting doubt on various aspects of the case. Some questioned whether the crime scene had been staged, while others suspected that the Ramseys themselves were involved in their daughter's death. These theories, though speculative, highlighted the public as insatiable curiosity and the desire to find answers in the face of such a horrific crime, the case that shook a nation. How JonBenét Ramsey's death shook a nation. In the annals of American history, few crimes have left a mark as profound and haunting as the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. This tragic event not only shook the tight-knit community of Boulder, Colorado, but reverberated across the entire nation. The brutal slaying of this 6-year-old beauty queen unveiled a dark underbelly that Americans had hoped remained hidden within their society. JonBenét's death was a jarring intrusion into the collective consciousness of the country, forcing a confrontation with the harsh realities of violence and the fragility of innocence. The case quickly garnered national media attention due to the horrific nature of the crime and the prominent status of the victims' parents, John and Patsy Ramsey. As the details of the crime emerged, a wave of outrage and grief swept across the country. The Christmas setting in which the crime occurred only amplified the tragedy. The festive season, typically associated with joy and family togetherness, became a somber reminder of the evil that can lurk even in the most seemingly idyllic settings. JonBenét's image as a bright and bubbly child prodigy further captivated the nation's attention. Her participation in beauty pageants had exposed her to a wider audience, endearing her to many as a symbol of childhood, innocence, and promise. The realization that such innocence could be so brutally cut short sent shockwaves of horror and disbelief across the country. The crime scene itself was a testament to the brutality of the crime. The discovery of JonBenét's battered body in the basement of her family home shocked the nation. The graphic details of her injuries and the manner of her death became a disturbing focal point of public discourse, raising questions about the depths of human cruelty. As the investigation progressed, theories and speculations ran rampant across the country. The lack of concrete evidence and the perplexing circumstances surrounding the crime fueled a firestorm of conjecture. The public was eager to find answers, and in the absence of official leads, rumors and opinions spread like wildfire. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the nation grappled with a sense of profound sadness and shared grief. The outpouring of sympathy and support for the Ramsey family was overwhelming, with countless individuals coming together to mourn the loss of an innocent child. The tight-knit community of Boulder, Colorado, became the epicenter of the nation's sorrow, with residents uniting in their quest for justice for JonBenét. However, amidst the grief, a darker sentiment began to emerge, a growing sense of unease and distrust. Many Americans couldn't comprehend how such a heinous crime could occur in a seemingly peaceful community. It raised fundamental questions about safety, security, and the very fabric of society. The Ramsey family found themselves at the center of this national reckoning. Their every move scrutinized, their actions questioned. The relentless media attention placed immense strain on the family, making it all the more difficult for them to cope with the devastating loss of their daughter. Today, the legacy of JonBenét Ramsey continues to resonate deeply within American society. Her tragic death serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the importance of safeguarding the well-being of children. The case also highlights the complexities of high-profile investigations and the challenges of seeking justice in the face of intense public scrutiny. More than 2 decades later, the unsolved murder of JonBenét Ramsey stands as a haunting enigma in the annals of American crime. The nation continues to grapple with the profound impact of her untimely demise and the enduring questions surrounding her case. Evidence that still baffles investigators today. In the labyrinth of the JonBenét Ramsey murder investigation, several pieces of evidence stand out as particularly baffling. These fragments of the crime scene continue to elude investigators, offering tantalizing clues that remain shrouded in mystery. The ransom note. The discovery of a ransom note near JonBenét's bed added a layer of complexity to the case, indicating that the crime was not a random act of violence. The note suggested that JonBenét had been kidnapped, and a substantial sum of money was demanded for her safe return. However, the wording and formatting of the note were peculiar, leading to speculation about whether it was genuine or a diversionary tactic. The perceived inconsistencies in the ransom demand and the unusual nature of the communication continue to raise questions about its authenticity and purpose. The basement location. The choice of the basement as the location for both the crime and the body disposal is another perplexing aspect of the case. Basements are typically associated with secrecy and isolation, making them less likely places for such a heinous act. The decision to leave the body in the basement suggests familiarity with the house and the area, raising questions about the killer's connection to the Ramsey family and their residence. The lack of forensic matches. Despite extensive forensic analysis, very little physical evidence linked directly to the perpetrator has been recovered. Fingerprints and DNA samples collected from the crime scene have not yielded any conclusive matches, leaving investigators with limited tangible leads. The absence of forensic evidence has hindered the ability to apprehend the killer and bring them to justice, adding to the frustration and complexity of the investigation. Witnesses and eyewitnesses. The absence of credible witnesses or eyewitnesses is another perplexing aspect of the case. Without first-hand accounts of the crime or the perpetrator's behavior, investigators have been challenged to piece together the sequence of events leading to the murder. The lack of eyewitness testimony has made it difficult to establish a timeline of the crime and identify the individual or individuals involved. The media circus. The intense media scrutiny and public fascination surrounding the case have also presented unique challenges for investigators. The constant speculation and theories disseminated by the media have not only distracted from the official investigation, but have also created a frenzy that makes it harder to separate fact from fiction. The media circus has amplified the difficulties in maintaining the integrity of the crime scene and gathering accurate information. These perplexing pieces of evidence continue to haunt investigators today. Each clue, though elusive, contributes to the intricate puzzle that is the JonBenét Ramsey case. As the investigation continues, the hope is that these very same pieces of evidence may one day lead to a breakthrough, providing closure to this enduring mystery. Did an intruder kill JonBenét? The theories that haunt us. The murder of JonBenét Ramsey remains a haunting enigma that has sparked numerous theories over the years. One particular theory that has persisted is the possibility that an intruder was responsible for her death. This theory suggests that the perpetrator was an individual from outside the family who gained access to the house with criminal intent. Several factors support this theory. The absence of any concrete evidence linking a family member to the crime supports the idea that the killer was an outsider. The notion of an intruder also aligns with the perceived randomness of the crime, as it doesn't necessitate a personal connection between the victim and the perpetrator. However, this theory also presents certain challenges. The security measures in place at the Ramsey residence were robust, including an alarm system and surveillance cameras. For an intruder to bypass these measures and target JonBenét specifically raises questions about the planning and knowledge required. Additionally, the crime scene itself contained elements that suggested familiarity with the house, such as the choice of the basement as the location for the body. As the investigation continues, the question of whether an intruder was truly responsible for JonBenét's death remains a haunting one. The theory offers a potential explanation for the crime, but it also leaves many unanswered questions. Ultimately, until conclusive evidence emerges, the true nature of the crime and the identity of the perpetrator will continue to elude us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Share your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates. Stay tuned for more intriguing cases in our next video.